Take a look at that, everyone. The typical price of a home in Savannah jumped from 200,000 prior to the pandemic to over 340,000 today. They tried to rent it out. They kept cutting the rent throughout August and September, and then eventually they made the decision to sell. Now, that investor on that house in Atlanta is a company called Progress Residential. They bought that home for way cheap at the bottom of the last housing crash in 2013, something like 130 grand. Now they're trying to sell it for 300 grand, and I'm just seeing more and more of these investors in Atlanta, in Georgia, begin to sell. And when you see the investors begin to sell, particularly the big institutional investors, that's going to just cause you to stop for a second and say, hey, what's going on in this market? Particularly in these zip codes in red, everyone, around the Atlanta metro. And I'm going to get into some other parts of Georgia here in a second, but I really want you folks to focus on Atlanta for a second. Because what we're seeing is really interesting. These zip codes in red have what's called an inventory surplus right now. Like out in Lithonia to the east, inventory is now up 99% from the long-term average. Listings have spiked from around 100 to over 300 in 30058 in DeKalb County. So when you see that inventory spike, that's telling you investors are selling, supply spiking, prices are likely to drop. And the metric really to focus on here on Reventure app, everyone, is the inventory surplus or deficit.